Can you hear me?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, fantastic. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the EMS Operations Committee. And if you all had and enjoyed your lunch, it's always great to meet after lunch in a postprandial state and see how creative we can get with ourselves. So let's see, we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you all again for joining. And we'll go ahead and begin with introductions. My name is Jeff Warner, and I am the chair, and I represent Air Ambulance here in Monterey County. Okay, you want to go around the table there for those of you in the room?
Yeah, I'll start out. Tino Ariano, ambulance provider, AMR.
Scott Houchin, City Fire Departments.
Kimberly Hernandez, EMS analyst.
Teresa Rios, EMS director.
Deborah Hopgood, EMS analyst.
Steve Brooks, EMS.
Am I guy out here?
Olivia Madrigal, Emergency Communications.
Cassie Caldera, Natividad.
David Jednick coming to you from Carmel Ambulance.
Cambria Hilgers here.
And Susan Bledge from County Council's office.
Sancy Prasad, EMS agency.
Yeah, I think we have a few more online. You'd like to introduce yourselves?
Will Hiller, AMR CES.
Good afternoon, Will. Okay. Thank you for your introductions. And without further ado, we'll move on to item number 2, which is public comment. Any member of the public may address the committee for a period not to exceed 3 minutes. Not on the committee's agenda.
Sandra Flores, AMR communication.
I think that was Sandra that was introducing herself there. Do we have any public comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of past ops meeting minutes. It's been a while. The last meeting was on May 12th of this year, and everybody should have received the minutes to review. Anybody have an opportunity to review the minutes, have any comments, suggestions for edits, or would anybody like to motion to approve?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Olivia.
And Jeff, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Tino. Okay, and then we need to do a roll call vote, correct?
Yes, I could do roll call.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Scott Houchin,
Aye.
Cassie Caldera,
Aye.
Dave Jednick,
Here.
and Jeff Horner.
And aye. Okay, so
You missed Olivia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Olivia. Oh, well, because you made the motion.
Oh, okay. Hi.
it was implied. I don't know if council would approve of that or not, but okay, so motion carries and the minutes are approved from the past meeting of May 12th. Okay, and it doesn't look like we have any new correspondence. So we'll move on to item 5 with old business, EMS agency update. Ms. Rios.
Thank you. We are currently working to fill 2 of the 3 vacant positions we have. We are filling a management analyst 3 and an EMS analyst. We continue to work on making improvements to our processes. One of them is the policy and protocol development. We have started to implement some changes with the goal of mainstreaming and improving the process. Extending timelines is one of our goals, and also allowing more opportunity for public input, stakeholder input during the process. The goal is to try to tie up as many loose ends before we actually get to MAC. Another thing that we're trying to do is develop our training materials ahead of time, sending them out to the stakeholders, let them take it for a test drive so they can comment. And so by the time they are officially released in April, they're ready to go, no more questions. Everybody has ample time to do the training. The unusual occurrence report is on the agenda today. It's another project that we're working on. The EMT and paramedic application process, we reported at the last meeting that, no, we haven't met here. So we have reported to other committees that one of the things that we're doing is trying to mainstream the application process and tracking of EMT and paramedics applications. Internally, we're using Excel spreadsheets, multiple Excel spreadsheets. Some applications are still being dropped off via paper with cashier's checks that go to the state. So our goal is to acquire software that will do that for us, that people will be able to submit their applications online, make payment online, will review, provide feedback, more real time. And we will also be able to track the trainings that are required by the EMS agency. Completion of those, we'll be able to track through that database. We are close, we are making progress on that project. I think we're close to being able to select the software that is going to meet the needs. And hopefully we'll be able to report in January that is being implemented. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Rios. Any comments or questions for Teresa?
No, but I wanted to ask, unless anyone objects, if we could move in new business, Susan Blitch's report up in the agenda.
That's fine. Let's do it.
And just for the minutes, Keith Boyd representing the law chiefs. I've been here since the beginning, but I was having some technical issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Boyd. Yeah, I have no objection to that either. So we'll go ahead and jump ahead to item 6A, a report on the status of AB 361 and the requirements for continued remote meetings after October 1st by Susan Blitch. Ms. Blitch.
Thank you. And I know most of you are sick of hearing me talk about this because I did for the other meetings as well. But essentially under AB 361, this committee has a choice to either meet in person, start meeting in person, or in order to continue to meet remotely, the committee has to meet at least every 30 days and make a specific finding that they have reconsidered the public safety measures and believe it's in the best interest of the committee to continue to allow remote meetings. The special meetings can be very short, but we would need a quorum. So really the decision is to meet in person or to direct staff to set up special meetings 30 days apart or less to make those required findings to continue to meet remotely. And happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Susan. Thank you. What is the time? When does this have to be implemented by?
So your first meeting remotely is what I would say a freebie. So you're allowed to meet remotely today and take, all the normal business that you would do. But hereafter, you would have to make the AB 361 findings within 30 days in order to continue to meet remotely. So you'd have to set a meeting in 30 days.
And Dave, I don't believe you were, Dave, I don't believe you were in MAC or EMCC today. Was that correct?
That is correct. I've been in hazmat all day.
Yeah, so this was a topic of conversation with Ms. Blitch, presenting the same to those meetings as well. And thus far, the consensus has been, the interest of continuing to do or have the option for virtual meetings. I think it was suggested that, with the other meetings such as CQI TAG and TQuick and a couple of others, that we could easily tag on an additional 5 minutes and have a meeting to basically approve.
The
and-
continuation, absolutely.
Yeah, agree to continue to have the meetings virtually. Is that correct, Susan?
Yes, you have to convene as the operations committee, but you can pick the date and time as to whatever's convenient. And literally 5 minutes is long. At the Board of Supervisors, they've been about 30 seconds for approval. So it's a quick thing, but unfortunately you have to convene as a committee, have the quorum and approve.
If I was the only one that was not at all the other meetings today, I will support the continuation of online meetings, and I will make a motion if it's in the best interest of the group to continue that and allow staff to organize how that best fits the county EMS agency's scheduling.
Second.
Thank you,
There
Dave.
you go.
So it sounds like we have a second and a motion, and then we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay. Chief Boyd,
Aye.
Cassie Caldera. Cassie? Come back around on her. Tino Ariano,
Aye.
Olivia Madrigal,
Aye.
Jeff Horner,
Aye.
Cassie Caldera. Cassie? Lost Cassie somewhere.
Can we circle back to Cassie, or can we carry this and approve without her?
Does it have to be unanimous? No,
No.
no, then we can carry on, because it was the majority was aye.
Okay. So then the motion passes, and we'll continue to convene and move forward with virtual meetings, understanding the stipulations of having to meet to approve that on a monthly basis or every 30 days.
Thank you all. Appreciate the time.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Blitch. Okay, so let's see, Deborah, moving back to item 5, old business B, medical alarm drill down, with a report by Kimberly Hernandez.
Okay, just one moment while we pull up the PowerPoint. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so medical alarm call drill down process. So luckily in January, AMR started coding any call that came in as a medical alarm. As we had talked about previously, they were coded as an MED call type, which is kind of like a generic medical emergency call type. So all medical alarm company calls that occurred in the EOA from January 15th, 2021 till when I started running the data, which was, or when I finished running the numbers was September 9th, 2021, were extracted from AMR's First Watch OCU. All non-AMR medical alarm company transports, I looked them up in ESO's CAD reconciliation report to determine their disposition if there was no transport code 2 or code 3. We then looked up each medical alarm call in the county communications TriTech computer aided dispatch to research in the free text and the CAD notes whether it was a confirmed medical emergency when the responders dispatched to the medical alarm company call, or if it was unconfirmed. So meaning had they contacted anyone on scene to confirm there's an actual medical, or if there was just an alarm going off. We also pulled all the priority 1, 2, and 3 calls that occurred in the EOA that AMR responded to from that same time period to do a comparison to determine the percentages of no transport, code 2 transport, or code 3 transport for those call types. After analysis, determination of the following was found: the count of the medical alarm call types in the EOA, count of percentage of the medical alarm call types that were confirmed versus unconfirmed, the count of and percentage of medical alarm calls disposition if there was no transport, code 2 or code 3, and the percentage of the priority 3 code 2. So we also did a priority 3 code 2 call disposition comparison. to compare medical alarm calls in comparison to the priority 3 code 2 calls. And then we're also I'm going to show a comparison of the priority 1, 2, and 3 combined and their dispositions. So there were 407 medical alarm calls. 293 were unconfirmed, 293 transported code 2. 293 transported, but there was no transport. That was 72%. So out of 407 of those calls, 293 did not transport at all. 103 transported code 2, which was 25. And 11 of those 407 calls, which was 3%, transported code 3. And so then this is the confirmed versus unconfirmed. So 248 of those 407 calls were unconfirmed medical alarms, so 61%. And then 159 were confirmed. On the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see it breaks it down in how many were transported, not transported, and if they were transported code 2 or code 3. So in the confirm, go back really quick.
All right, can you go back?
This one? Yeah, that one. Nope, that one. The fourth one, yeah. So for confirmed, 10 transported code 3, 86 transported code 2, and 63 for no transport. And if you look at the unconfirmed, 1 transported code 3 out of 248 calls, 17 transported code 2, and 230 were no transport.
Wow, that is huge.
You can go to the next slide. So this breaks down the percentages. So it's the disposition, transported code 2, no transport, transported code 2, or transported code 3. First, we have medical alarm confirmed. So 40% of those calls were no transport, 54% were transported code 2, and 6% were transported code 3. And of the unconfirmed, 93% of those had no transport. 7% transported code 2, and less than 1% transported code 3. And then the priority 3 code 2 and the P1, P2, P3 combined is for comparison. So if you're going to compare like the medical alarm confirmed, there's still a higher percentage of no transport across the board for the medical alarm confirmed. The transported code 2 is about the same as the combined. The priority 3 code 2 has a 70% transport for code 2. And it's in the neighborhood of how many transported code 3. So 6% of the medical alarm confirmed transport code 3. For priority 3 code 2, it's 4%. And then for the combined, it's 8%. So medical alarm calls are twice as likely to result in no transport in comparison to other call types. For example, the medical alarm calls resulted in no transport 71% of the time compared to the different call types, which on average result in no transport 31% of the time. And medical alarm calls resulted in code 3 transports 3% of the time, which is less than the current priority 3 code 2 responses, which result in code 3 transports 4% of the time. And the data suggests that changes in ambulance response to medical alarm calls may be warranted. Discussion.
So are these unconfirmed all priority 1s then, when they go through the dispatch?
No, they're all priority 2s currently. Yeah.
Priority 2 code 3. Priority 2 code 3. Let's make sure we clarify that.
Priority 2 code 3. Yes, they're all started as priority 2 code 3, whether they're confirmed or unconfirmed.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Thank you so much for presenting what we've been experiencing, and personally being out in the field and experiencing this and watching the system get decimated by these false alarms with almost no positive patient outcome. I think this is a huge step, and I think there's actually more beyond this, but I think this is a great stepping off spot to look at how we code and send units to these kinds of calls. Because we're rolling 70,000 pounds of emergency equipment for no good reason, and it's becoming so dangerous out there. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
And Dave, I think you brought this agenda item up originally, correct? And I mean, this seems to be statistically significant. So, you know, it's great discussion. And thank you, Kimberly, very much for going back and doing all the research and putting the numbers together for us. What are next steps? What do we do with this information?
Well, if you're asking me, my 2 cents are whatever we can do to minimize the, the inappropriate response to calls, I think is where we look at it. I don't know, it's very small to us in Carmel. It's a large impact to AMR and the county and the EMS agency, but I would hope that the county and the, obviously the primary EOA contractor can come up with something that's going to minimize the risk. It's going to enhance their system for the betterment of all, and not just a person who purchases a medical alarm from a company in the East Coast states and is expecting an emergent response or an accidental response, and it's not warranted. So I think we really need to be mindful of how we're serving our citizens and what's the best mechanism to explore and create change that's beneficial to all.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I'm curious, Tino, is the EOA and representative, do you have a position or an opinion on this?
I think I would defer over to Sandra, because I know she handles a lot of these through the dispatch system. And I think starting at that point, we can probably figure out what we need to do for these types of calls. I think our first responders play a big role on these. For us, we are at the privilege of serving each city and responding to their needs. So I think we can look at this a little bit more closer.
I mean, we don't sorry, just to interject. I think if anything, the first thing we do, I think it should be universal. And this has the secondary effect, which I'll lead into afterwards. But the first thing we should do is we should downgrade these to priority 2 code 2, or priority 3, or whatever you guys code it as. I think it should be downgraded to code 2 to start with, because that to me was the nexus of the concern. It's not that we don't want to go to these calls, but do we really want to go with all the oomph and stuff, and only to find out? I mean, this happened in Carmel 3 months ago, and I always bring it up to the dispatcher stuff. We're going to a medical alarm on the east side of Rio, and then all of a sudden a medical comes down with a chest pain on the west side of Rio, and here comes regional going one way and Carmel going the other. And it's just unfortunate, because the medical alarm turned out to be a complete false. It was unconfirmed. And this is what we're dealing with. So if we could just, if there's only one person that required code 3 transport out of 263 alarms in a 9-month period, it's truly statistically, disadvantaged for us to go code 3 to any kind of unconfirmed alarm. So I think that should be the initial, these are automatically code 2 until confirmed. Thank you.
The initial conversation we had internally, and that is why we split the calls between confirmed and unconfirmed. And I think this slide it shows clearly that definitely for the unconfirmed, with 93% of them resulting in no transport, that whether we would start to tier that change and start conservatively. So we had an initial conversation with Dr. Burby. I don't know if is that you were going to cover that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to comment the same thing that Teresa was mentioning here. If you look at this chart, basically what you see is for these automatic medical alarms, the unconfirmed automatic medical alarms, the vast majority of these result in no transport, 93%, and only 8% or less result in transport. And of those, that small number that get transported, less than 1% are code 3. So I think what we can see from this is that the likelihood of you ending up on the scene with a true medical emergency requiring a code 3 transport is exceedingly rare for unconfirmed automatic medical alarms. Now, the same cannot be said necessarily for confirmed automatic medical alarms. You can see that 6% of those cases required code 3 transport, which is in the realm of the percentage of code 3 transports that culminate from other EMS calls, sort of for all takers. And so I don't know that we can extrapolate the statement to say that all automatic medical alarms should go code 3, at least at this point. But I think the data definitely supports unconfirmed automatic medical alarms going code 2. So that would be my read on the data. But happy to hear other comments and.
I think one in a true priority dispatch system, you send a first responder first, you pull the ambulance, because that's a cold response. And first responders can be law enforcement, fire, first response, get there, they determine if an ambulance is needed, then we'll go. I think sending an ambulance to these, the unconfirmed definitely isn't, I would not recommend that, just because we're not transporting, as you guys can see. But again, it depends on each individual jurisdiction. If they want an ambulance to respond, we're going to respond regardless. But, in a true priority system, that's a cold response. It's a first responder that gets there to confirm whether or not EMS is needed to continue the transport. But, we serve at the privilege of every city. So whatever you guys want us to do, we respond.
Go ahead. Chief Boyd here. I'm sorry. I'm listening on my phone driving. Who was that speaking? I'm just trying to keep my mental notes.
Oh, Chief Boyd, this is Tino from AMR Operations.
From the police chief's perspective, again, every jurisdiction, I don't want it built in. My preference is not to build into the system that we're going to send a cop to check. I mean, we could be on other calls, whatever it might be. I think we need to be, if we're going to build that triage mechanism to confirm these calls. A lot of police departments are going to they'll go if they have staff available, but they don't want to be built in as a medical responder. If that makes sense, I think we have to be cautious with that. So just adding that in.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And I said, like, in a true priority system, first responders are part of the response for an echo. I would want a law enforcement to respond, because they might be in that beat area that might get there quicker and start CPR or AED. But again, it's just designed on this. Each system is designed differently, and we don't have the resources here in this county, so it makes it a little bit challenging for law enforcement to participate. So I do agree. I do agree with you.
I mean, it seems like an appropriate extrapolation from this would be to have the fire unit or first responder responding code 2 for unconfirmed automatic medical alarms. And, it also seems reasonable that you wouldn't necessarily send an ambulance for these unconfirmed. That if a fire gets on the scene and finds that an ambulance is needed, they call for one. But since we can see that the vast majority do not require transport, and even if they do require transport, it's not an emergency, I think it would be a better use of our resources to not dispatch an ambulance right off the bat for unconfirmed. Thoughts?
Chief Dave Judnick.
Go ahead, Dave.
Thanks, Dr. Burley. I totally agree. I think it should be looked at like a lift assist. It's almost the same category as a lift assist. Somebody calls up, hey, I've fallen, I'm not injured, I just need help getting up. And then, it goes in that you got confirmed or unconfirmed, you got confirmed, not hurt, no ambulance, here's first response, and vice versa. So I'd support that. Is that something that the operations committee has to make a motion on? Should we go down that path to make it, formal? Or is this something, how does this work?
No, it's up to the EMS agency to work on making the change. There's no motion needed for this.
And then, excuse my ignorance on this, but can you just explain in greater detail to me what is part of the current process for confirmation?
Olivia might be able to answer better, because a lot of these are answered by the county call takers, but from what is in the CAD notes, the medical alarm company calls to alert that there's a medical alarm at that address. And then they try and make contact with someone that is at the location of where the medical alarm is going on. So if they cannot make contact with someone, it's considered unconfirmed. And a lot of these end up being accidental, something happened, the alarm went off, but they can never confirm that there's an actual patient there. So they attempt to call back, or the alarm company attempts, but if Olivia wants to elaborate on that, since that's handled by county comm call takers.
Yeah, no, you are correct. That's basically what we do.
How long does it take from the time that the dispatch goes out to categorize this as confirmed or unconfirmed? I'm imagining someone's continuing to try to reach out to the residents and see if they can get in touch with someone. And ultimately, if they're not successful, it becomes an unconfirmed. But I guess the one question is, like, you know, if the call goes out at the moment of dispatch, we don't necessarily, would it be true to say we don't necessarily know whether this is going to be a confirmed or unconfirmed?
That is correct. And they do attempt, and then they will update the call if they have any new information, if it's confirmed. Other than that, you know, we move on to the next call. So.
And currently there's nothing, it's in the it's not categorized as confirmed or unconfirmed. It's all in the notes.
Right.
So it's not like a different call type or anything like that. They continue to try and confirm if it is a medical or not. And a lot of them end up, by the time they get there, it's never confirmed. And then it ends up, it was an accidental alarm.
Right.
And we have policies, you know, our dispatchers follow whatever the protocol is.
Chief Boyd here. I think it seems reasonable that in an unconfirmed event to hold an ambulance until it's confirmed that there's a medical necessity for a code 3 response, and to dispatch, you know, an engine company to assess the situation, you know, and then we work with the chiefs if the chiefs want it broadcast over for their PD units, that if they're in the area, they could go and check as well and confirm, being the idea that the engine company or law enforcement personnel who do arrive on scene have the ability to notify communications that they do have a medical event and to expedite response, whether it be by the engine company and or the ambulance at a code 3 level. I think that seems reasonable use of resources in a system that's taxed.
So, so that sounds reasonable as well. Just kind of trying to drill down a little bit more on confirmed versus unconfirmed. A call goes out via 911, and an engine gets dispatched for what we presume is an unconfirmed, because we haven't yet made contact. 30 seconds into it, a minute into it, 2 minutes into it, we're able to contact the caller, and and they say, yes, so we're having an emergency. It then becomes a confirmed. In that situation, the responding unit would get upgraded to code 3.
Yes.
Is that kind of the way that I'm?
Yeah, because that's how it happens with the lift assist. So when a lift assist comes through, I'm not injured, and then they start the EMD, and if it's a true lift assist, nobody goes, but then, so nobody is started initially, right, to the lift assist except for the fire department, but an ambulance is not started. Once they get information, not the lift assist, but sometimes they say they're not injured, the fire department gets there, and then they start an ambulance. But if they do the EMD, and then it turns out this patient is injured, then an ambulance is started. So initially, they're not started until it's confirmed, just like this.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further discussion or questions on that? So is it the request of the committee then that the EMS agency take the discussion data that was shared under advisement and take appropriate action? Therefore, it seems like there's significant opportunity for system improvement here.
Because most of the fire jurisdictions will probably go code 3 to these unconfirmed based upon their jurisdictional requirements anyway. But there are some more remote areas that are a little more challenged that the ambulance response might be the closest one. It's very likely to be that.
Yeah, but Scott, I mean, even so, whether it's Salinas or not, at least now we have the data to look. Those agencies can make those decisions, hopefully based on logical statistics. I mean, the unconfirmed is remarkably, small in terms of percentage of, outcome. So I would think it would behoove all of us just to look at this. I mean, instead of going code 3, just go code 2. I mean, regardless, it's and in Carmel, our ambulance will still continue to respond to all calls regardless of what it is. But now at least we'll have some basis to support a code 2 response instead of a code 3 if we decide to go. So that's how I'm looking at the data. And I am very thankful for Kimberly, the EMS agency, AMR, for coming back with all this outstanding work. I've got more, but I'm not going to overwhelm the committee today. We'll do that in the future meeting, but it's along these lines. And if there's something in the future that we can tackle, it's what I call the do-gooders who, they see somebody and they think, because everyone knows everything from when they think. I think they need help, but nobody wants to ask for help. And I want to start looking at those calls in the future. But let's get through this one first. Let's fix it. And thank you very much.
Well, Dave, as you well know, the EMS agency really has nothing better to do. So we're happy to entertain any and all requests that you have at your disposal.
Yeah, Dr. Burley, I just started my 37th year, and when I was 18 and I was driving mean streets of Carmel in that old ambulance that was supported by the Red Cross, there was nothing cooler.
It was a hurt.
Sirens, you're making tourists off the street corners. I mean, it was amazing. And now I'm like, this is stupid. He's a little more tacky. It's not that it's stupid because the person's dying of a heart attack. It's stupid because there's certain calls that we know of that are just unwarranted. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. So 37 years, that means you started it when you were 5, right?
Well, I appreciate that. Looks, Botox, and a couple other things. No, just kidding. Yeah.
I know where he gets his pedicures.
His pedicure.
Oh, Crossroads. Tino, you can come.
I know, I've been there, I've seen you.
Yeah, absolutely excellent discussion, you guys. Thank you. And it's near and dear to my heart. I think that we're putting the public safety and the safety of our providers, in the forefront here with this type of discussion and actionable agenda items. So thank you. Okay, anything else on that? Great. Thanks, everybody. Okay, jumping back into new business, item 6B, unusual occurrence. Kimberly?
So the EMS agency is revamping the process to manage, review, evaluate, and respond to unusual occurrence reports. During a review of our internal process, the EMS agency staff determined that the performance improvement plan, or commonly known as the PIP, tool used to communicate the agency's case review findings to stakeholders did not address different types of findings. To improve the UO review process, the EMS agency created a scoring system that is consistent with Just Culture and focuses on quality improvement. The scoring system will also help to ensure consistency in the way the agency communicates its findings to the stakeholders. This staff report and also the attachments, which is the UO case review scoring system and the closure letter template, were in the agenda packet. The scoring system includes 6 categories that range from cases where no specific opportunity for improvement is identified to cases where a breach of professional conduct is identified. We've also added a category that will allow us to recognize incidents where clinical excellence is identified. Each score category describes the type of incident that would fall into each category and the action the EMS agency will take based on each score category. To emphasize Just Culture, each case review will also receive a Just Culture score. During this process, we have met with system stakeholders from fire agencies, hospitals, and ambulance service provider to receive feedback on the proposed change to the UO case review process. And we have incorporated feedback we have received. Any questions?
Dave, you got any questions?
No, I'm staying neutral on this. But thank you.
I think the EMS agency did a lot of due diligence in reaching out to the providers. There was really good dialogue that we had looking at the opportunities to address system issues in a different way than just a punitive process. And that was a really encouraging dialogue. You know, the one thing that I look at is when we get these anonymous concerns, they're really difficult for us to look at. And we'd humbly request that when these come in, that we actually see the concern, not a filtered part of it. But if it's an anonymous concern, let us take a look at it so we can see exactly what they're saying. I think that's a really incredible, important part of us to really look at the system and be able to respond appropriately to.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Scott. And I concur. I agree that, a just culture application to unusual occurrences is the right way about going about this. And, with it being less punitive, or the perception of it being less punitive, will hopefully promote greater compliance and engagement from the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think that's one of the major realization during this process is that the EMS agency certainly did not want to be punitive. It's just that tool that we selected at the time, or actually that we've been using for a long time. It is a punitive. It has a negative connotation when it comes to personnel issues that we didn't realize. So going through the process, made us realize that. I think sitting down with the fire chief was very, very helpful. We want to, leave no stone unturned when it comes to our processes and trying to improve everything that we do. There's always room for improvement. We are a work in progress, individually and collectively.
Do you need a motion to move this forward then, or is this just a report phase?
It's a report phase. Our goal is to implement immediately. If there's no other feedback or any need to meet with anybody, then we'll move forward and we'll implement it immediately.
Okay, great. Not hearing any additional feedback, I would take that as an endorsement to move forward with it. So, great. Thank you very much, Kimberly, and thank you, Teresa. Moving on to the next item, the 2022 EMS committee meeting calendar. Kimberly.
Included in your agenda packet is as I'm sure you've heard a couple times today already, is the 2022 committee meeting schedule. It's going to be on the odd months as it has been, and the ops committee meetings will be at 1 p.m. And any information on the meetings, Zoom invites will be sent as well.
We probably will need to change as we are having to schedule those special meetings.
Yes.
We'll be changing the calendar online. And I don't remember if Susan mentioned that they're trying to see if they can be a change to that special meeting requirement. She mentioned it at the MCC, but I don't remember hearing it here. Hopefully we won't have to do that special meeting very long.
Thank you, Kimberly. I think, pursuant to the previous meetings today, there was an EMCC discussion about, and there was a chart showing items, topic items that each committee work on. And it was suggested or discussed that this committee may be redundant to MAC and other meetings. I think there's a testament today to the value of this meeting, just in the discussion surrounding medical alarm drill down alone, not to exclude or marginalize the other information, but just wanted to open it up to discussion to the committee, if it was felt that, we should consider a change in frequency. And I don't know the bylaws or what implications there are here. I'm just throwing it out there for discussion. Should the frequency of the meetings, or the structure of the meetings, or the meeting altogether. Just want to put it out there to the group for discussion.
Keith Boyd here. I know, like, for the police chiefs, the rep, and I think the fire chief's the same, but for the police chiefs, the rep serves on all three committees, and we're one of the, not many of us do all three committees. So, it ties up a full day, but it's a commitment we make to this group. My concern with, I know one of the talks in one of the other meetings earlier today was the ops board tends to not meet as often. Because to me, it seems like operations should meet as often as the other boards, because there's always something going on operationally in this county that we probably have the ability to talk about. And I get concerned as a chief when we talk about operational procedures, about putting things off and off and off, because by the time we're addressing it, we may have missed an opportunity to affect it from happening again. So I would be inclined to say that we should maintain the meeting schedule in congruence with the other 2 committee meetings moving forward, but it's open for discussion.
Thank you for your comments, Chief Boyd. Anybody else?
Dave,
Go ahead, Dave.
sorry, I've got a break after this comment, but I agree with Chief, is it Boyd, B-O-Y, Chief Boyd? And I think the Operations Committee has a very unique group, regardless of MAC and EMCC. I mean, medical advisory is kind of in that realm. Ops is ops. This is bring all of our parties together and we discuss stuff. Now, whether there's something to discuss or not, that's entirely up to our group members to bring forth. And I think this medical alarm breakdown that we just did is a testament to how valuable this is and how we continue to do it. So I would look at nothing more than maintaining what we have, and if we align it with other meetings. Depart now for my class, my instructor's yelling at me. Thank you, everyone. Lee, Sandra, MR, County, and Jeff.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
All right, guys, I'll look for the notes at the final.
Any other comments? I just wanted to put it out there for discussion since it had been brought up in previous meetings today. And so far it sounds like the consensus, or we're kind of weighing in the direction of maintaining the same frequency and cadence with in alignment with the other EMS meetings, MAC and EMCC. Okay, hearing none, then we'll continue forward with the meeting calendar as shared by Kimberly. That closes that agenda item, and then we go to announcements for the good of the order and future agenda items. Okay, hearing none, then Kimberly, I missed it, but I think our next meeting is in January then?
Yes, January 12th.
Okay, January 12th at 1 o'clock.
And in December, there'll be a special meeting to discuss the AB 360.
Okay, of course, yeah, to maintain compliance with that every 30 days. Okay, great. Unless we have anything else for the good of the order, then do we need to conclude, or can we just end the meeting?
We can adjourn the meeting.
Okay, hearing nothing else, then hope everybody has a good rest of your day. We'll give you 40 minutes back to your afternoon. Thank you all for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.